Hello and welcome back to the Biblical Prescriptions for Life YouTube channel. I'm Nick Evanson, not a face you usually see here, but I'm usually behind the scenes helping Dr. Marcum bring content to you. But today I want to share a story with you. I want to share my story of riding the Trans-North Georgia Adventure. It's a 362-mile route across North Georgia, and I did this bike packing with about 80 other folks. Take a quick look.
My heart rate has been higher than I'd hoped pretty much this whole time. We've entered a new phase of the ride. The wet section. So I'm where I think we need to turn, but I'm not sure. So what do? I didn't foresee this one being a problem. Also, it was supposed to rain today. And it is just a downpour at the moment.
So one of the reasons I'd like to share this story with you is to share some of the biblical prescriptions that helped me succeed along this route. I had never done bike packing before, and this is a route that I've known about for about the last 10 years or so, and I've been kind of talking with a few of my buddies about it for the last 3 or 4 years. And this past August, I decided to go ahead and give it a shot. Now, I'd never done bike packing before, and jumping into this 362-mile route across North Georgia with 45,000 feet of climbing was kind of jumping in the deep end. And so I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to do it. But along the way, I decided to employ biblical prescriptions, and one that kept coming back to mind as I rode this ride was Proverbs 3, verse 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. So I just found that verse very comforting as I rode this event and was out in the middle of nowhere, sometimes suffering up a climb for hours, sometimes in the rain, sometimes hungry or thirsty. I knew that my needs were going to be taken care of one way or another. So what made me choose this? It's a good question. This is a bikepacking route that's not for beginners. A lot of people may start it but don't finish, because maybe they haven't trained enough, maybe they have mechanical problems, maybe they get sick or overheated. There's a lot of reasons. And so it's definitely not something to take for granted if you finish. It's 362 miles, 45,000 feet of elevation gain. It's 70% off-road. It's mostly gravel roads with some mountain biking trails mixed in, and a little bit of road. But I wanted a big goal to motivate me to take action. I ride bikes a couple times a week usually, and so cycling is something that I really enjoy. I love being out in the woods. It's a great form of exercise for me, but this is something I couldn't just get off the couch and go do. And I wanted to get better fitness. I wanted to feel better. I wanted to do something significant to get me out of the regular routine. And so the Trans-North Georgia Adventure was a big challenge.
Oh yeah. So 3 hours, 15 minutes in, 24 miles, having some nice little single track, and good times ahead.
So let's talk a little bit about hydration. It's mid-August in the South. It's very hot and humid usually. This past year, it wasn't as hot as it could have been. It was in the 80s, usually kind of mid to upper 80s. And yes, that's hot, but it wasn't in the 90s. So it definitely could have been worse. So on my bike, I had a 2-liter hydration bladder in the frame bag. And then I had a hose that I pulled up and could just drink from whenever I wanted to. And I also kept a bottle on the handlebars that had some electrolyte mix in it, so that I had, a little bit of sodium and other minerals and things in there that I needed so that my body could absorb the water. I would stop at creeks or streams or lakes usually to fill up water. And let me show you a little bit about how that went.
All right, we're about 10% in, 35 miles or so, just past Dillard, and ran out of water. So I noticed another guy was filtering right here and found a beautiful spot. This is probably some of the best water available. Check this out. It's coming right out of the rock, basically. So nice and cold, and I'm running it through the filter. But man, it feels good. think hydration is gonna be one of the keys to this thing. Fortunately, the weather is pretty agreeable. It's not as hot as it could be. The high today is around 88 or so it's not in the 90s, which that's good. But yeah, hydration, super important. So we've got a water filter, we've got a 2-liter bladder in the bike that's in the frame bag here. And so I've got a hose that's always going up there. But then I also have this bottle up here that I can put other stuff in. So let's do a little filtering.
In this moment, I was reminded that just as God provided water to the children of Israel as they grumbled against Moses, that God still cares for me today. And he provided this source of cold water for me. Even more importantly than the physical water, God wants to give us living water. As found in Revelation 21:6, he says, "I will give of the fountain of the water of life freely to him who thirsts." And in chapter 22, he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God. There is an abundance of life that God wants you and I to experience. And he wants us not only to have physical thirst quenched, but he wants to quench our thirst for living water. He wants to fill us with his spirit so we can really experience what it means to be alive.
There we go. So I've probably got about 2 liters of water with me now. And that should last me the next 3 hours or so maybe.
So since I haven't done bikepacking before, I was a little bit unprepared in terms of how much my bike was gonna weigh when it was all loaded up. The day before the event, I loaded up my bike with everything that I wanted to take, and it weighed 54 pounds. Now, for some people, they'd ride with that much, but the way I wanted to do it, it was just gonna be too heavy on the hills. There's 45,000 feet of climbing on this race, and so I wanted to be a bit lighter, as light as I could be. But I also haven't done this before, and so I didn't really know exactly what all I should take. So I ended up removing about half of the nutrition products that I was planning to take with me, some hydration mix and some gels. They were just too heavy. So I removed some of that stuff and I got the bike down to 45 pounds, which still proved to be quite heavy. And some of the climbs, it didn't make sense to try and climb them. So I just had to get off and hike. Take a look.
Sure you can't tell on the GoPro, but we're on some old Jeep road, a bunch of Jeeps back behind us here. And this is the kind of place where it's steep enough that it doesn't make sense to try and ride it. My bike's went in, loaded. I just topped off with water, so we're probably about 45 pounds or so. And I've got a 32 chain ring up front and a 52 in the back. I should have gone for a 30 in the front because with the extra weight, the bike's pretty heavy. My training rides, I really only had the bike loaded up about half of what I've got here for TNGA. But we're making it. Just got to walk a few places.
So one of the highlights of this event was doing it with 80 other people. I didn't have any close friends doing this ride with me, but it was really cool because I started in the very back of the ride. There was essentially 80 people in front of me at the beginning, and I just let them go. There's a bridge that we crossed to start the race, and I just let them go at the beginning because I didn't want to be in the front feeling the pressure of trying to keep up with the leaders when I knew I didn't really belong up there. And so I started dead last, and that meant that all of the first day I was just trying to catch up to the next person in front of me. And I talked to a lot of people along the way, and they were actually quite helpful as a newbie. I didn't know the course. And so when we get to a turn, I'd look at my bike computer and it showed me the way to go. But sometimes it would be a little delayed or I would be a little uncertain of the turn. And so being there with other people, we could kind of confirm, yeah, my computer says to turn here, let's go this way.
Navigating while in a pair works way better. But by myself, it's a little sketch. I wasted probably 5 minutes back there. Had a turn trying to figure out if I was making the right turn or not. And you kind of just had to go with it and see if the Garmin caught up with you and said you were still going the right way. So definitely advantages to having community out here and being with some other riders. But I had to stop and filter. And honestly, I was pushing the pace the first 4 hours of this, 5 hours. Not really sustainable probably for me. It's what I wanted to do, but I did it for a little bit and it's not gonna be sustainable. So I'm slowing it down a little bit. Hopefully that's the right choice.
Another thing that I really enjoyed, aside from chatting with folks, was that the beautiful scenery was just everywhere. This course has quiet backcountry gravel roads. Much of the first day, that's all we were on. There's a lot of rivers and creeks and lakes, and cooling off in the clear, cool water was amazing. It started to get hot around 1 or 2 p.m. and so the creeks were just fantastic. One spot I stopped and took my helmet off, dipped my head down in the water, and then used my helmet to pour some water over my head. It was just a really special place to be out in nature, to be out in the trees, away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and not to really have a care in the world aside from just riding my bike and trying to accomplish this goal.
All right, it is 3 o'clock, and so I figure I gave you an update on my progress. 3 o'clock, that means I've been riding for 7 hours, and it's a good bit of time in the saddle. Feeling all right though. My heart rate has been higher than I'd hoped pretty much this whole time. And that's just the nature of having a bit more gear and heavier bike than I thought maybe. So a little poor planning on my part there. But we are 53 miles in, 7 hours, 53 miles. I don't know how much elevation that is, but it's been a lot. A lot of gravel climbing. Pretty much all the climbing so far has been gravel road. There's not been a lot of pavement yet. There's been some, a few miles. But yeah, just a lot of gravel climbing so far. And not much single track. But yeah, we're on pavement for 3.5 miles here. So we're trying to make up a little time. It's not climbing, it's just kind of rolling, which is nice. I like the variation. All these gravel climbs go on and on and on. So yeah. Let's pick up the pace a minute.
Another thing that I wasn't expecting was rain. The forecast had showed that we weren't going to have any rain the first day, but the forecast was wrong.
So, we've entered a new phase of the ride. The wet section. I'm thankful though. It was getting a little warm earlier, and the rain certainly is helping cool it off. So temperature tomorrow is supposed to be a little cooler than today, and the next day and the next day. So no complaints. It's right on. All right. So you'll find this humorous. I'm not finding it so humorous right now. Oh, there we go. Maybe. It's raining, and so all of a sudden the screen on my Garmin is like not responsive to my finger because the water's messing it up. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just pull my phone out. Same deal with my phone. Pull my phone out, swipe, nope, nothing. I didn't foresee this one being a problem. Also, it wasn't supposed to rain today, but here we are. So I'm where I think we need to turn, but I'm not sure. So what do I do? Wasting a bunch of time is what I'm doing. Oh well. I'm thankful for the break, I guess. We're gonna look at it somehow positively. Thankful for the break. So I ended up waiting until some of the next riders came along, and they were kind enough to tell me, yep, this is the way, turn here. And then a guy named Daniel, I've been riding with him for the past few miles. I asked if I could just tag along, and my Garmin finally dried off enough so I was able to reload the route. Anyhow, it's 5:30 and we're at 70 miles. My next stop is in about 28 miles in Helen, Georgia. I'm gonna stop there, have a sit-down meal, and decide how far I want to go. If I want to keep going, I probably will. Helen's at 98 miles total, so it'll be a good day, but I really need to do 120, 130 miles a day to meet my A goals, but A goals may not be realistic, so we'll see. All right, that's it for now. I'll give you another update in a bit. So it's raining again, as you might be able to tell. And so my Garmin now has a Lay's potato chip jacket. That is the fix for the moment. It's pretty redneck, I know, but keeps the rain off, lets me keep going, and I can pull the bag off for a second to see where I'm going, and put it back on so it stays dry. Oh, I think we're in for a little downhill. So nice. The temperature is great. It's not hot. A little drippy, but it's keeping it cool. No complaints. Dude, look at this bag. This Lay's potato chip bag. It's riding like a champ. Just went fast down that hill. Not even falling off. Look at the thing. What a legend. All right, I'm not sure what time it is. It's probably like 6:15, and it's not supposed to be dark yet, but it's getting very dark, and it is just a downpour at the moment.
So after sorting out most of the problems with the navigation, thanks to the potato chip bag, I made my way into Helen, Georgia. And those last few miles into Helen were pretty tough. It was like I was riding in a creek bed and there were big rocks all over, and they were wet, and it wasn't much of a trail. And so you just kind of had to pick your way through it. But we finally made it down to Helen, Georgia. I was riding with a friend that I had met named Chris. He was ahead of me at times during the day, but I caught up to him at the end of the day. And we made it down to the convenience store on the edge of Helen at 10:08, 8 minutes after it closed. And that meant we had to go into Helen for food. So there were a few things that were real blessings in disguise. Number one, the rain kept me cool. And it would have been a very hot afternoon if we hadn't had that rain. Number two, my Garmin computer failed because of the rain. But that forced me to take a break, and it slowed my pace down, let my heart rate come down, and that really was probably a big blessing. And thirdly, the rain slowed down my progress because of the roots and rocks, causing me to stop in Helen, Georgia for the night. Meaning I didn't do 120 miles as planned, I only did 100 miles. But that probably saved my whole race, because a bunch of guys who went through the night and they were soggy and wet, they kept riding, and the next day they had to quit, because you're sitting on a bike seat for hundreds of miles, you get soggy, it's not a good situation, and they couldn't ride anymore. So at the end of day one, I was a bit disappointed because I didn't meet my 120 mile goal, but it wasn't the end of the day. I realized that, you know what, this is what needs to happen, and I trusted God that He would help me along the way, even though things didn't go perfectly from my perspective. Wherever you're at, I want you to think about this. Maybe you're on your own adventure. Maybe you're setting new goals for the year, or maybe you're just trying to survive another day. I challenge you to put this biblical prescription into action. Proverbs 3:6. Trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. I'll be back with the story of day 2 of my Trans-North Georgia adventure very soon. Till then, click that subscribe button below, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.